Hari Om. Can a person pursue the enjoyment of worldly pleasures, desires, and passions, and yet at the same time strive towards self realization? Well, it is mostly like a person trying to travel in the opposite directions. In the beginning, it is fine. Most of us are basically had been going after worldly pleasures, and when we started on this practice of Maha Yoga or any other spiritual practice towards attainment of Atma Jnana, then slowly we learn, we understand, we try hard and put into practice to make our mind to turn within instead of going towards worldly objects. So in due course of time, with consistent practice, what happens is mind learns to abide within. Mind gets an experience of the happiness of staying within the Atma, and it learns that true happiness is basically within, and it is not there in the insentient worldly objects. So the mind, as it experiences more inner happiness with consistent practice, slowly it learns to withdraw from the worldly objects and focus more towards one's own inner awareness. Now, let us deeply analyze whether any happiness can be obtained from the worldly objects, whether it is through some people or object or a place or a thing, etc. So, when we think that certain object or a person or a place will give us pleasure, we put lot of efforts to acquire or to be in the presence, to be in the company of that particular person or a place or a thing, and then we try to experience whatever the joy we want to attain when we possess an object, or when we are in a place, or when we are with some person, etc. Now, what really happens when whatever object we very much longed for, we very much wanted to be with, is basically within our reach, we are able to experience that particular object, then what really happens is that our mind becomes very happy that it is able to fulfill a desire. This is what is the important thing here. Mind becomes happier because there had been a desire to experience certain thing. Now, when the mind is able to experience what it had been longing for, then for a moment of time there is a kind of fulfillment, and because of this fulfillment, the ego or the I thought subsides and merges into its source, which is the pure awareness. And when the ego or the mind merges at its source, the pure awareness, we experience happiness. It is only this happiness of the pure awareness, when the mind subsides after experiencing the fulfillment of a deep desire or a passion, we wrongly attribute that this happiness is really coming from that particular worldly object, whether it is a particular object or a person or a place or a thing. And then we imagine that it is nice, so if I can have more of the same experience, then I will be able to be in this happiness for more time. So with this wrong notion, we keep on going after the worldly objects again and again and again. So in this process, what happens is, with this wrong notion, we kind of deepen our samskaras, the vasanas, the mental inclinations. Thereby we sow the seeds for further desires and passions in the time to come forward. So this is what really happens when we try to go after seeking pleasures of the worldly objects through our desires and passions. Now, one can ask, how can you say that there is no happiness in whatever object I am experiencing or enjoying? What is the proof? Let us consider the state of deep sleep. In sleep, we don't have a body and mind. We are devoid of the body and mind. But when we wake up from deep sleep, we feel refreshed. We can say that because of deep sleep, our state of mind is very peaceful. So, we should have been there even while we were in deep sleep, when we were not conscious of a physical body or the mind. At the same time, we can also recollect events which happened before we went to deep sleep. So that means it is not something abrupt, that when we went to deep sleep everything is kind of cut off and then we experience deep sleep and then now we wake up, so we don't remember or recognize whatever happened before we went to sleep. No, we can recollect everything and we basically kind of continue from wherever we left before we went to deep sleep. So that means we were there even before deep sleep, which means that the body and the mind are not real. What exists in one state and what doesn't exist in some other state is not real. In the same way, we can apply this rule for all the worldly objects. No objects in this world can be termed real because they don't exist in all the states or they don't exist forever. Either way, it is not going to fulfill the condition for what can be called as real. So, all these objects, from these worldly objects, we wrongly understand that we are getting happiness. But the truth here is that no objects in the world can give us happiness. We wrongly think that they can give us that kind of happiness or a pleasure. It is what is really happening is that there has been a desire and we work hard towards fulfilling that desire, and when that desire is fulfilled, the mind or the I thought or the ego subsides because a desire has been fulfilled for a brief time until the arrival of next thought. There will be a gap, and in that gap the ego subsides into the pure awareness or God, and when the ego subsides the mind experiences happiness because it is merged with the existence consciousness, Satchitananda, Atma. So the sukha or the happiness comes from only from the Atma or the pure awareness. And this sukha we wrongly attribute to that worldly object or a person or a place or a thing. What is conscious only can give us happiness. Atma or the self-awareness is conscious. It's a conscious existence. No objects of this world, including our physical body, has a consciousness of its own. They are all inert. No inert object can give us happiness. It is only because of our wrong desires, and when we fulfill those desires, because of the mind getting subsided into the Atma, we derive the happiness of the Atma, which we wrongly attribute to the worldly object. So this truth should be understood. When we understand this truth, that only a conscious existence can give us happiness, we can understand that happiness can be attained only from Atma. No worldly object can give us happiness. Once we understand this truth, then our mind will not go after any worldly objects because it knows we are always already here and now in the presence of Bhagavan, the Nirguna Brahman, Atma, existence, consciousness, bliss, Sachitananda, absolute reality. Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva, Arunachala Shiva.